Hello everyone and welcome to Edureka's webinar series. Today's topic is Selenium IDE. So we're going to discuss about an automation tool called as Selenium IDE, which is one of the flavors of Selenium. And we are going to see into how Selenium IDE can solve our automation problems, how can it give us a better solution, and we are also going to see what are the advantages of using Selenium IDE. But there are a few limitations of Selenium IDE, which we'll see towards the end of the webinar. So if you guys have any questions, you can type in the question windows and I'll answer them as and when possible. You guys can ask me as much questions as you want. If I'm into middle of something, I'll just answer them at some later point of time. Okay. So what we are going to learn today? Today we are going to learn why Selenium IDE, why to choose Selenium IDE, then the features of Selenium IDE, what exactly it provides us, then Selenese, which is the language in which the Selenium scripts are written, and lastly we're going to see a hands-on session. So why choose Selenium IDE? Question is really very good, that why should I choose Selenium IDE when there are so many tools available in the market? So there are a couple of things that you consider while you select an automation tool. The first thing is you want to create test cases. So the problem statement goes like this, that you want to create test cases and test suites for your website. You don't have much programming knowledge and still you want to create automated test cases. So what options do you have? You want some tool which has a graphical user interface against the line by line of coding. And this interface provides you a way by which you can record your interaction with the website and you can play it back as and when required. So Selenium provides the answer. Selenium IDE, it's a Firefox plugin which has a graphical user interface and you can record your actions and ask Selenium IDE to imitate them on your application. So what exactly is Selenium IDE? Selenium IDE, so IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment, a tool to develop test cases. So it's a tool to develop automated test cases, rather I would say. It is easy to use Firefox plugin. So it comes as a Firefox plugin. So this also gives us an idea that there is a limitation. It can only work on Firefox and you cannot perform cross-browser testing. Third one is you can create and edit test cases and test suites. So you can create a test case if something is really not going well. You can come back, you can edit the test case and you can again save it to run as the updated properties. You can record and playback test. So whatever actions you perform with your web application, it will be recorded and the script will imitate your actions thereafter. You can convert test cases to different languages. So this is one of the capabilities that was added to Selenium IDE at later point of time when Selenium RC and Selenium WebDriver, which are other flavors of Selenium, were in place, and hence there was a need that, okay, I can record my test scripts with the help of graphical user interface, and can I convert it into code? If yes, then the option to export the test cases was added to Selenium IDE. What are the features of Selenium IDE? So let us see one by one what are different options available to us, what are the features and how they work. So first one is the menu bar. So if you see this top part, that is File, Edit, Actions, Options, and Help. So File provides you access to open, save, and export test cases and test suite. So you can record a test case, say, okay, I want to export this test case to Selenium RC format. I want to export this test case to Selenium WebDriver format. So that can be done from the File menu. The Edit menu provides you the edit options just like any other tool, that is copy, paste, delete, undo, and select all operations. Actions, it will provide you options to record and play. Then you have the options menu wherein you can change the IDE settings. You have the help menu which has links for blogs and documentation. So as you know that Selenium, it's an open source tool, so it does not have a dedicated support. But yes, there are communities wherein, if people have any kind of questions, they come and put up their question, and experts, they answer the questions from people. So if you also have any question which is very specific, you can just go to any of the blogs, you can type in your question and experts, they will answer your question with the accurate solution. The next is the toolbar. So the toolbar, it has various options to control your test cases, test execution. So first one is the speed control, wherein you can control the speed of execution of your test case. So this is basically a slider which runs from fast to slow. So if you slide it towards the right, the speed of execution will reduce. Then you have the run all option, wherein if you have multiple test cases, you can execute them one after another. So this is basically used to run the complete test suite. Then you have the run option, wherein the currently selected test case will be executed. You have a pause and resume option. So the pause and resume option, it allows you to wait or pause the execution of a particular test case and then again continue it from the same point of time. So the pause button will get activated when the test case is running, and if you have paused the test case, the resume button will get activated and will help you to continue with the test case. Then you have the step button. So step button is kind of a facility which will allow you to debug your script. So you can run through your script one step at a time and analyze if there are any kind of failures, any kind of things that you want to change, any kind of things that are of your interest, like values of some variables or something, right? Then the next one is apply rollup rules. So this one is used to group together repetitive actions and then execute them. The last option is for record, wherein this button determines whether your actions performed on the web browser or the web page are being recorded or not. Okay, so the next one is the test case pane. So the test case pane, it looks something like this. If you see this portion, you have two tabs. One is the table, one is the source. So we work mostly with the tabular view if you really want to work with a tool which has a graphical user interface. So the tabular view has three sections. One is the command. That means the action that you want to perform. One is the target. That is the element on the screen with which you want to perform the action. And if there is any value that needs to be passed to the target, it will be passed through this field, that is value. So the table displays the command and their parameters in a readable tabular format, and the source displays the text in a native format which the file would be stored. So the source view is basically dealing with the native format. The command, target, and value entry fields display the current selected command along with its parameters. So that's what we discussed, that command is action, target is element, and value is if any value is required from the background. Okay, so just below this tabular view, then you would also have this right hand side section, wherein if you want to change the command for a particular step, then you can select it from the drop down here. You can have your change in the target by just selecting a different property for the target over here, and the value, as we discussed, if anything needs to be passed. Next one is the section at the bottom, which has the log, reference, UI element, and the rollup. So log will show you any kind of error messages and informational messages that are displayed in this pane. So during execution of your test, there are multiple events, those are happening. So the important events, they are captured with the help of log, and the logs are of different levels, like you have the info log, you have the debug log, you have the error log. So there are different levels of log. So whatever kind of log it is, it will be displayed. Like if you see over here, it's the info log. It's giving information. It doesn't have anything much to say, but it says, okay, this step has been performed, this is being done, and all. Then you have the reference tab over here. You can find the documentation of the command currently used. So whatever command is currently under process or currently being executed, you can find the documentation of that command over here. Then you have the UI element, which allows you to certainly define most of the XPath statement and give page elements meaningful name. So if you want to name your web element, so web elements, sorry, I forgot to mention this before, but web elements are nothing but whatever you see on your web page. Like a text box is a web element, a button is a web element. So all these web elements, they do have some property by which Selenium can identify them uniquely. So these are called the attributes of an element, and these attributes uniquely define an element on the screen. Then the last option, that is rollup. So rollup represents a sequence of steps that can be reused throughout the test case. So if you have a particular series of actions that will be performed again and again during your test execution, then that goes under rollup. Okay. The next thing is, let us talk about Selenese. So as already stated, Selenese is the language in which the Selenium commands are written. Selenese is a set of Selenium commands which are used to test your web application. So basically, if you go to the underlying meaning, it says it is a set of commands which will be used to perform any kind of actions, ultimately testing your web application. Then you can use Selenese to test the existing UI elements based on their HTML tags. So Selenese, it is going to use the HTML tags of the element, and these HTML tags have attributes which will uniquely identify the element, and then Selenium will be able to perform any kind of action with a particular element. A command tells Selenese what to do. So obviously the command is something that will be fired, and hence Selenese needs to perform that particular action or operation. Selenium commands are classified into three basic categories. One is the actions, one is the accessors, and one is the assertion. So actions, they are nothing but whatever you want to perform, like if you want to type in the text, if you want to click on a button, and so on. Accessors, if you want to access any of the element properties, like you would like to know what is the current value of that particular text box. So yes, you can access it via this. Assertions, when you want to compare whether your actual and expected results are same. Sorry, I flipped it. When your expected results are as per your actuals, right? Then let us go into the details one by one. First one is the action. Commands which change the state of application are classified as action. So this is the literal definition, that whatever command can change the state of an element, it will be called as an action. When action is performed on page, the test will fail if the action is not successful. So any of the actions, when Selenium is unable to perform them, then the test case will fail. Few actions are: click on some link, select some options on the page, select a drop-down value from the page, and so on, so on, so on. So whatever you do manually with web application, almost everything can be turned as action, because that's an operation on the user part that you want to do to change the state of the element. Examples are click and wait and click. So these are basically the actions. Like I want my Selenium script to click on a particular button and wait for some time. So that's where click and wait comes into picture. The second one is the click. So it's a normal click being performed. So any questions so far? Okay. So Vikram has a question that does it support all the browsers? So as discussed earlier, that this is a Firefox plugin and can be worked with only on Firefox browser, nothing else. So does that answer your question, Vikram? Okay. The next part is the accessor. So commands that check the state of the application and stores the application state in an variable. That is, you can access the value and store it somewhere within the script. That is in a variable or something. So this kind of accessors, they will help us to get any kind of values that we require from the application. So examples: store text present. So if you want to store any kind of text present in a text box, which ultimately is a web element, then you can use this command store text present to transfer the text from the web page into your script, the value being held by a variable. Store element present, you can also store the element altogether. So if UI element is present on the page, then it stores true, else stores false. Okay, so we have a question from Pulkit, that is, why exactly would I want to change the speed of running of my script? So speed of execution is an important factor, especially with your web application response time. That is, if your web application is taking a longer time to respond, then your scripts will fail at a faster speed, because Selenium will try to find the next elements as soon as, or the next thing as soon as it's done with the current operation. So for instance, my current operation is click on submit button, and my next operation is when the new page is loaded, after clicking submit button, I want to enter some text. Okay, so Selenium will click on submit button, and as soon as that is done, it will try to find out, okay, where is the text box where I want to enter the text, and it won't find. Why? Because the speed of execution is really very fast. So you want to synchronize it with the speed of your web application. So you can bring the speed down so that there is a proper synchronization between the Selenium script being executed and the web application. So I hope that answers your question, Pulkit. Okay, so storing the text present. The next one is assertion. So assertion is a very important factor as far as testing is concerned. Why? Because all your test cases, they can be executed, but how will you check whether, whatever you're getting on the screen is what you expected? So assertion, they will help you to compare your expected versus your actual results. If both the values are same, only then your test case will pass, else your test case will fail. So assertions are used like checkpoints or verification points in automation. Assertion verifies whether the state of the application conforms to the expected state. Like I can put an assertion on the state of an element, I can put assertion on the state of the application, I can put assertion on any kind of values being populated from the backend to the front end. So there are n number of assertions that can be used. Assertion has three modes, that is assert, verify, and wait for. So there are three things that are included under this section, that is assertion. The first one is the assert. So assert we already discussed. Then you have verify. So verify is nothing but there's a very slight difference between assertion and verification. It does the same, that is it will compare your expected value versus actual value. But what verify does is, for instance, if your actual is not equal to your expected value and you have a verification point, so it will fail the verification point, but the script will continue its execution. But if an assertion fails, then the script execution, it terminates at that same point of time. That is at step number 4, if my assertion failed, then next steps will not get executed. If there are next 100, 200 step, it doesn't care. But if it were a verification point, that is it wants to verify whether the values are correct or not and just record whether it has passed or not, passed or failed. So that goes to verify. Last part is wait for. So wait for is nothing but a condition that you want to put, okay? Like I might wait for a confirmation message. I filled in some details on a form. I click on the submit button and I want to wait for the confirmation message that, okay, your complaint or your feedback has been submitted successfully. So I can put up a wait and wait for a particular time before I throw out an error for a particular element. Okay, so Vikram has a question, that is, can you please repeat the difference between verification and assertion? So verification and assertion, the similarities are both of them compare your expected versus actual values. And the difference is, if a verification point fails, the script execution will still continue. Whereas if an assertion fails, the script execution, it terminates at that same point of time. I hope that answers your question, Vikram. Okay, thank you. So how is the Selenese syntax? So pretty simple for us. Selenese syntax is simple. It consists of command and 2 parameters. The parameters are not always required. Parameters vary. However, they are typically allocated for identifying a UI element within the page. So that's the locator or the target element that we want to work with or deal with. Then a text pattern for verifying or asserting page content. If you have put up any kind of verification, if you have put up any kind of assertion, that goes in this category. Then a text pattern or Selenium variable for entering text in an input field. So if you also want to enter anything, any kind of text in an input field, it can be sent as a variable. Okay. How do you build a test case? So what are the steps necessarily involved for Selenium IDE testing? The first one is recording. Second one is verification and assertions. Third one is editing. So let's go through them one by one. The first is recording. So begin by recording a test case from interactions with the website. So for recording a test case, you need to navigate to that page. You need to work as if you are really testing the page, and all these interactions or actions, they get captured and then they form your test case. Automatic insertion of commands based on your actions. So basically you just perform actions, automatically all these actions will get recorded as commands in the Selenium IDE console. Typically includes click or click and wait. So basically a command. Type command, so used to enter text from your script to your application. Select command, this is used to select a particular element. Then click command, it will perform a click operation just like user would have done that. The next is verification and asserts. So you need to check the properties of a web page. You want to check whether it's working as per your expectation, whether it's not working as per your expectation. How would you confirm that? With the help of expected results. So comparison between expected and actual results goes into this section, that is verification and assertion. And the third one is editing. So you can come back to Selenium IDE to edit the test that you have recorded. You can change a step, you can delete a step, you can add a step, you can change the locator values, or you can say the target element locator, you can change whatever you want, and you can just save it to rerun with the updated values. So you can insert a command, you can delete a command, you can edit any kind of, like you can put a comment, you can edit anything. So how do you write a test suite? So test suite is nothing but it's a collection of multiple test cases. So you can just come to Selenium IDE console, and you have from the file menu, you have an option to save all the current test cases in the test case pane as a test suite. So what do I mean by test suite then? So I can just trigger one execution, and all these 10 test cases, they will get executed one after another. So the test suite looks something like this. Okay, the next part is running the test cases. So how do you run the test case? And what happens when you run a test case? So run a test case. Click on the run button, runs the currently displayed test case. So whatever test you have selected, it will just start with the execution. Run means execution. Then run a test suite. Multiple test cases in the test pane can be grouped together to schedule a run one after another, called as a test suite. Then stop and start. So this one is basically when your execution is in progress, so you get a pause button, and if you have paused two buttons, then stop in the middle, set a breakpoint in the test case to cause it to stop on a particular command. So if you want, just like any other programming language, you can add a breakpoint in Selenium IDE and the execution will stop there. Start from the middle. Tell IDE to begin running from the specific command in the middle of the test case, and run any single command. So double click on a particular command if you just want to run that particular single command. So multiple options over here. Okay. So as we said that we are also going to discuss the limitations of Selenium IDE. So let us talk about what you cannot do with help of Selenium IDE. So first of all, Selenium IDE cannot be used for testing big data. So that's not a work of Selenium IDE. It doesn't really do a data-driven test, so you cannot test a big data. Then recording all possible cases for automation is not possible, like upload, screenshot, etc. So there are certain limitations, like you cannot capture a screenshot, then you cannot upload a file, you cannot download a file. So these are the limitations within which you need to work if you select Selenium IDE. Cannot handle dynamic part of the page or the web application. So Selenium IDE, it was a tool which was designed way back somewhere around the early 2000s. So at that point of time, there were no dynamic applications. So basically, dynamic applications were not thought of, you can say. But it can deal with the static pages very well. That is, any kind of static page, you can just come, record, and say, okay, I want this thing to be done. So Mr. Selenium, please to take care of this. And yes, it will be done. Cannot test connections with databases. So you cannot establish a connection with database with the help of Selenium IDE, like you could have done it in Java. Cannot handle multiple windows. So this is also one of the constraints. The window from which you open Selenium IDE is the only window under coverage. Rest all are not under coverage. Okay. So now let us have hands-on session with Selenium IDE and try to automate one of the websites, which a static website, as this tool is also dealing with static. So let's talk about the practical aspects of Selenium IDE. So this is the Firefox. This is my Firefox browser, and over here, if I want to add Selenium IDE, I'll just go and say seleniumhq.org. Okay, here to the download section, I can just go and try and find where exactly Selenium IDE is over here. And you can go to the Mozilla Firefox add-ons page. It's getting redirected. Okay, and just add it to the Firefox. So once you add it to Firefox, there are two options. Either you can see it in the tools menu, or you can also add a Firefox button over here just next to your bookmarks bar, and you can work with it from there as well. So let's go to IDE and see how exactly IDE looks in the real world. Okay, so this one is menu. Oh, sorry, menu is hidden in May. This one is the buttons, different buttons over here. Then you have this tabular view wherein you have command, target, and value. Then you have the source, you have this test case pane, and whatever step you record, you can edit it over here in the below section where you can see command, target, and value. Okay, so let's start with Selenium. Okay, so for the demo, what I'm going to do is we are going to hit a dynamic web page, that is the Selenium practice form, and then we are going to just try a couple of text entries. We are going to try a couple of clicks and see to it that Selenium IDE is able to imitate our actions. So I have the Selenium practice form on seleniumframework.com/practice form. Seems like the website is lazy today, taking a lot of time to load. Okay, so here now you can see on this practice form there are multiple buttons, multiple text boxes, checkboxes, radio buttons, and so on. So I can just practice my Selenium IDE script over here. So, okay, here we go. So first of all, to start recording, you need to click on this button. So as of now, it says it's now recording, click to stop recording. So whatever I'm trying to perform over here will get recorded. Okay, so first of all, let's deal with this text area. Let's say this is modified by Sanket. Then I choose checkbox option 1, radio option 1, and then I'd like to enter my email address and submit. Okay, so it got a submit. Okay, so now let us also have a look at what Selenium IDE recorded. Can you see over here that there are multiple commands being written, multiple targets on which these commands will be performed, and multiple values that are passed from the backend. Okay, so if I want, I can just come, I can edit these as well. So I can say, okay, instead of saying this is a text area, what I want to enter is this is modified by Sanket. So I edited the script as well. Let's try and run this test. So you can see that the page was reloaded. It said it came in to modify this text box. It identified the text box, entered text as this is Sanket. It checked the first checkbox, the first radio as well. And over here you have the mail subscription abc@xyz.com. Okay, so now let us try to move this text from this particular text area to the text box. Okay, so it says that this is a particular element with an ID which is used. So if I want to change my object or the target, I can just come here, say select, and select this. Okay, I don't see it worked. Okay, here we go. So I'm getting the element property from the console and I'll paste it in the Selenium IDE. So I just want ID to be 9 instead of 10, and the text, it will shift from text area to the text box. Let's run it. Okay, here we go. You can see this is modified by and got shifted from text area to the text box, right? Okay, now adding assertions. So let us see how to add assertions and at what point of time. So for instance, I'm on this particular text box which says this is modified by Sanket. Okay, the test failed. I also wanted to, it's waiting for a pop-up and I don't want it to wait for anything. So I just say, okay, delete this step. I don't need it. Okay, so that's part of edit as well. Okay, so we were talking about assertions. I want to assert that this is a text area is present on the page when the page loads. So I right click onto the particular element and then I say show all available commands. So now here I have verify as well as the assert commands. So it says you can assert the title. Do you want to check that the title is Selenium practice form or you want to do something else? So assert ID is equal to is a text area. So do you want to assert whether it's a text area? Do you want to assert if this a button or any sort of thing? Okay, so let's check our script with one assertion added. Okay, sorry, I didn't add the assertion. Let's assert that the title is Selenium framework. Let's assert that this is a text area. Then let us assert this as well. Okay, so now we can verify that the value inside, first of all, we can assert the text. We can verify the value inside this is text area. And now let us run this test case. Okay, so first step, navigating to the Selenium practice form. Second step, asserting the title is present. Then type in that this is modified by Sanket. So there are a couple of click actions and then finally everything went well and we got this green flag. So for any kind of error, you can find the error notes in this particular section. That is the log section. Okay. So over here, finally, we got everything good and our test case looks green. So let us try and re-execute it once again. Then we can try saving it and I'll also show you how the exports work. What is the format of the export that can be done from Selenium IDE. Okay, so looks like everything got executed. It went pretty fast. Yep. So this is modified by Sanket. Option 1 is checked and yes, I'm good with it. Okay, so if this is my test case, how can I export this test case? Let's talk about it. So in the file menu, what you have is you have option to export test case as. So I can export it into different Java formats. I can export it into Ruby, Perl, Python. Okay, so all these languages, they are supported by Selenium. So that's the reason you can see these options like you have C#, you have Java, Python 2, Ruby, and there are different formats within this as well. So for instance, I want to export my test case to Java JUnit WebDriver. So just click on it. It asks me, okay, where you want to save it and what's the name. So I say exported test. Okay, so in my documents, now I can find as exported test. Over here, I'd like to open it with text editor. Okay, so this is, when I export my test case from Selenium IDE to a JUnit for WebDriver format. So you have all the imports, all the Java rules being followed, and the same test case can be executed from this as well. Okay, guys, so that's all from my end. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Please do let me know. So we will be awaiting your feedback on this video. You can like us on YouTube if you find this video to be useful. And Edureka has wonderful courses with respect to Selenium. You have courses on Selenium IDE, Selenium RC, Selenium WebDriver. So WebDriver is the most widely used to Selenium flavor in industry. So it's all about how you code your test cases. And then the Selenium GRID, which is the fourth flavor of Selenium, which can execute your test cases on a remote machine. Okay, so thank you everyone for watching this video. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it and you can comment any of your doubts and queries and we will reply to them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to our Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!